Um, the topic I'm going to talk about today is attribution theory in the context of literacy. So if you don't know what attribution theory is, it's basically how a person describes or what they believe to be the cause of their successes and failures. And the reason I was interested in this topic is because currently I'm at McMaster University for cognitive science of language, which is kind of like it's linguistics with a more psychology focus. And one of the things that we had to do for one of our classes is write a paper about any sort of linguistic variable intersecting with another type of variables, for example, a person's socioeconomic status or their gender. So the topic that I chose was how socioeconomic status affects a child's reading ability. And an article that I found was talking about how attribution theory factors into a person's level of success. Basically, how does their mindset about their own successes and failures affect how they're able to succeed? So this was a study that was done a long time ago in 1996, and it was significant because it was kind of the first time that they had studied socioeconomic status intersecting with attribution theory and intersecting with literacy skills. So basically what they did was they had participants from schools in Eastern Newfoundland, which was the province with the highest child poverty rate in Canada. And what they did was they studied the parents and the students were from grade 3, 6, and 9. In case you're interested, this is basically how they split up the group, and this is the percentage of participants per grade. Low is students who have the lowest performance in reading, and then high is the students with the highest performance in reading. And this is what the tests look like. So what they had the participants do was they had to fill out forms that asked them to describe or basically attribute their reading to a certain factor. So an example is when I do well at reading, it is usually because I work hard, and they rate it on a scale of 1 to 7 based on how true they think it is. And this is the student version, but the parent version is basically asking the parent to attribute their child's success to something. So for example, when my child does well at reading, it's because they worked hard. So the 7 causal variables that they identified in the study were effort, intellectual ability, good teaching, liking reading, help at home, ease of the reading material, and luck. So effort's pretty straightforward. It's just how much effort the child feels that they're putting into their reading. Intellectual ability is, I guess, how smart the child believes they are. Good teaching is whether they feel like their teacher is teaching them in a way that helps them understand. Liking reading is basically if the child likes to read, they can use it as a factor for why they're doing well. So if they like to read, it's the reason why they're doing well. Help at home is just pretty straightforward. It's if their parents are helping them. Ease of the reading material is it basically is talking about how easy the reading material was or how difficult it was. And luck is just an external factor. Maybe the child feels like they had a good day, and that's why they did well. So these factors are categorized along 3 dimensions. This is part of the attribution theory. So number 1 is stability, and it describes factors that don't change. For example, your ability is usually pretty stable and doesn't change. Controllability is for factors that can be controlled. So if you put in more effort, that's something that you yourself controls. And finally, locus. Locus is basically how if you attribute your success or failures to internal or external factors. So example of internal factor is your own ability or the effort you put in yourself. External factors are things like luck or somebody helping you. So the theories behind the study, or things that they were basically using to build their hypothesis, number one was they believed that people from a lower socioeconomic status have a lack of, they feel that they have less control over their lives. So because they grew up in an environment that they can't control, they might emphasize external factors as being the reason why they succeed. And they also chose grades 3, 6, and 9 because they realized that younger children can't really differentiate between the factors. They don't know what to attribute their success to. So they had to study a range of different ages of children. So a big thing was that they wanted to see how parents' attributions matched up with the child. They believe that, for example, if the parent attributes their child's success to luck, then the child will also feel that way. And then another thing is that they were looking basically only at students of a low socioeconomic status. So they wanted to see basically if attribution theory can be used as like a mediator for the effects of poverty. So if somebody is from a low income family, but they believe that their success, like their mindset is a more positive mindset, they believe that they're successful because they're smart, because they work hard, they will be more successful than somebody who believes that they're doing poorly because they're not smart or because they just got lucky and that's why they're doing well. So the two things that they were studying mainly was the effect of the child's grade and reading achievement on the child's attributions and the parents' attributions. And the second thing was they were looking at the relationship between the child's attributions and the parents' attributions. So what they actually found is what they were expecting to find, which is that high achievers emphasize internal factors such as their own ability and how much they like reading when they're talking about why they're performing well. And they also found that high achievers will attribute poor reading to external factors like, oh, the reading was too difficult, or something that they control, like, oh, I just didn't put in the effort and that's why I didn't perform well. And then they found, on the other hand, that low achievers will often stress that their personal characteristics are insufficient when explaining why they're performing poorly. So they will kind of put themselves down and feel that it's because they aren't smart or they're not talented and that's why they're not doing well. And also for good reading, they tend to attribute it to external factors like they got lucky or somebody helped them and that's why they did well. And these are the results for parent and child attributions. So they found that parents of like the high achievers, since a lot of like high achievers tend to attribute their good reading to ability, they found that the parents do this as well. But then they saw that the parents of the low achievers tend to attribute good reading to external factors such as luck. And they found that parents were also likely to do that as well. They might attribute their child's good reading to help or luck and just basically give a lot of credit to external factors. But they found that for both high and low achievers, even if the child is saying that their poor reading is because of themselves or that they're not smart, the parents don't tend to think so. And like, we don't know if it's just because they don't want to say out loud that their child is not smart or blame their child, but we do see a discrepancy between like the way a child thinks and the way the parent thinks. Another thing that they saw was the effect of age. So older students like grade 6 or grade 9, they tend to have more similar attributions to the parents, which makes sense because they're kind of growing older. So they're becoming more adult-like and thinking more like adults, and maybe they're more socialized to be like their parents. And they saw that older students are more likely to see factors such as getting help as a negative thing. And for example, they might see somebody helping them as a testament to their own ability. Like they weren't smart enough, so they have to ask people for help. Whereas younger children are more likely to see it as a good thing, like, oh, somebody wants to help me and help me improve. So overall, you just see that older students tend to take more personal responsibility for their performances. And then they saw for younger children, this one is quite, it makes sense and is very intuitive. Younger students get more help and place more emphasis on the help that they receive compared to older students, mainly because either, you do have to get more help when you're younger compared to when you're older, but they also think it might be because of they're from low-income families, so it's likely that their parents are also from low-income families, and they didn't receive enough education to help the children once they get older. So these were basically the results that they got from the study. And in conclusion, we don't know for sure if it's just like a vicious cycle, like what causes what. For example, do people feel that they don't perform well and this causes them to blame themselves and then in return do poorly, or which one is the cause of what? But I think what's important to take away from the study, and I know over time probably attribution theory has changed quite a bit, but I think it's important to think about how confidence, personal confidence in yourself, can really affect how you perform, because they felt that if you have a mindset that everything is your fault, you're more likely to give up on what you're doing, and in turn you won't do as well at the thing you want to do, right? And so I don't think it's really selfish to say that you're doing well because of yourself. It's just really important that you have confidence and that you give yourself credit when credit is due. So that's basically what I wanted to talk about, and I thought it tied neatly into the positive thinker theme, and I just want to know what your thoughts are. And this is the article that I referenced for this presentation. Thank you.